Hello, you absolute legends. Welcome back to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and I'm absolutely buzzing to share this incredible conversation with you today. You know, when I look at these books behind me on cellular health, mitochondrial function, and the root causes of wellness, I get genuinely excited because that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going in deep, not just surface level wellness tips, but the real science behind why our bodies thrive or struggle. Today's guest is the phenomenal Amelia Phillips, a registered exercise scientist and nutritionist with over 26 years of experience, who's about to blow your mind. She holds a Bachelor of Science, Exercise Science, a Master's in Human Nutrition from Deakin University, and has published research on diet quality and mental health. But here's what I love the most. She's not just throwing around fancy credentials, she's lived it, breathed it, and transformed thousands of lives by understanding the why behind our well-being. Today, in part one of this week's part 1, 2, and 3, we're exploring the fascinating world of preventative health, the triggers that spark real behaviour change, and how technology is rewiring our brains and bodies. Amelia shares her deeply personal journey with eating disorders and how that shaped her empathetic approach to coaching. This isn't just theory, people. Folks, this is real world wisdom that could change how you see your own health journey. Certainly did that. She had a cup of tea, I had a cup of coffee. Settle in and let's discover what happens when science meets soul. This is part 1 with the incredible Amelia Phillips. Welcome to Leading Our Own Way. I'm your host, Andrew White, and this is the podcast that unveils captivating narratives of resilience and personal triumph. This podcast is for anyone seeking inspiration and insights on overcoming life's challenges. Follow and subscribe, and then we can lead together forever. Amelia Phillips, welcome to Leading Our Own Way. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to. I've got my cup of tea here. I'm feeling like we're having a nice little intimate chat together. I wish we were face to face, but this'll do.
It'll have to do, but until next time, I've got the money to be able to fly you in and out of Melbourne. I'll get you down here for sure.
Now we're talking.
Because that's something you do quite a lot. You're flying all over the place to do interviews. I mean, I know you do them online as well, but you're pretty much going everywhere, aren't you, Amelia?
Well, I love having an excuse to travel to different states because members on our program are all over the country. So if I know I've got a reason to fly interstate, then I'll always organize a member meetup and a catch up as well. So I've always got multiple reasons to visit all my friends in different states.
Well, now you're a friend, if you come to Melbourne, let me know and we'll have to grab a coffee.
I'd love to.
For those who are tuning in, and I have a lot of people. I'm from the UK, so I have a lot of people listening in the UK and in the United States as well. For those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself, Amelia, because you're doing wonderful things. And first of all, actually, before we go down, I should thank you for joining me on my journey because I've been reading a lot around what the topics that we're going to discuss today. I'm fascinated. I'm so passionate about it. I just wish I knew about all of this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Would have changed everything for me. But I'm here now. This is where we are, and it's what brings me to you. Just tell us a little bit about what you do and how you lead your own way.
Well, I am an exercise scientist and a nutritionist by trade. That's kind of, essentially my qualifications. I've got a science degree, a master's degree in human nutrition, and then I've been working in this industry since I was 17, believe it or not. So I was one of the lucky ones that discovered the power of health and being in it, particularly in lifestyle health. So very much on the preventative side rather than waiting until something's really broken. I discovered really early on that I was more passionate about preventing disease than I was so much about fixing it, if that makes sense.
Totally.
And so I started out as a personal trainer when I was 17 years old, and I had a lovely 13 years training all sorts of walks of life, from CEOs to the big banks down to mums, to athletes, to celebrities. I had 18 months in the UK as well, where I trained some really interesting people over there. And then I moved into digital fitness after that. And I also bought a gym in the city. So for 6 years, I had a Definition Health Club in Pitt Street in Sydney, which was so much fun as well. And then I started with Michelle Bridges, the Michelle Bridges 12-week body transformation, which was a really successful online health and fitness platform that we ran for 10 years. And Michelle was one of the trainers on The Biggest Loser, that TV show. And so we ran this business. It was amazing. It opened my eyes to training people online and to training large groups of people and how effective that can be. And then we sold that. So that was with my husband, Tim, and I, and Michelle and her husband at the time. And so Tim and I sold our half of the business in 2019. And then it was around that time that I started getting really interested in biotech and in biofeedback that we are starting to see a lot more of. It started with wearables. So when the Apple Watch came out in 2016, I saw the difference that made in our members on 12WBT. And so then I have been kind of really focused on behavior change through biotech and through the feedback that we get. And so this is all super fast. As you can see, I'm speaking about the last 26 years in a few minutes. And so then more recently, I partnered with the most incredible integrative GP, Dr. Yasmina Dedick-Hagen. And basically, it's a culmination of my whole career, have gone back into online programs with our functional health platform called Vitality 360, which is all about bringing in all this amazing research from functional medicine and combining it with all my experience of lifestyle and behavior change, nutrition, exercise, stress management, sleep. Then you've got Dr. Yasmina's expertise around functional medicine and combining the two with functional testing. So from blood biomarkers to saliva, cortisol stress tests to DEXA scans, so all the longevity stuff. We have so much fun because we get to play in that preventative and longevity space, and predominantly women in midlife is our main market, but we get blokes and we get younger people and we get older people. So yeah, that is a quick wraparound of me.
Man, leading your own way or what? Drop the mic and get out of here.
Okay, bye.
We're done.
Yeah.
Well, you're definitely leading your own way. That's for sure. I mean, wow. It's weird because you said before you got into it. You're one of the lucky ones. You've got in it at such a young age. Whereas for me, it was crisis equals change, right?
Yeah. Which is very common.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is that the majority of type of people that you see? It's the crisis equal change, or do you have a selection of people that come such a young age, understanding this cellular level stuff, to prevent whatever? Are they aware? Have they been through things, who have lost people through cancer, or friends or parents or whatever it may be? What are the type of people that tend to come to you?
I do feel that the majority of people have that table flip moment.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like, it might not be as dramatic as a huge crisis, a massive health scare, although that absolutely happens as well. But, in 12WBT, which was predominantly around weight management, because Michelle was a trainer on Biggest Loser, we attracted a cohort of people that have often struggled with weight their whole life. And for them, there was always this really clear crucible moment where something has to change. I remember one member, we called it the table flip moment, but I remember one member sending in a photo of her in a sports car, and her partner for her, I think it was her 40th, had bought her dream sports car. They'd reached a point in their life as a couple, and financially this was a goal she'd been working towards. And her husband presents her with this sports car. She didn't fit in the racing seats of the sports car. And there's a photo, she sent the photo in on the forum, and she's got this sort of pained smile, but she physically, because a sports car has those kind of tight. So that
Bucket
was one
seats as well,
example.
yeah.
And she said that at the pinnacle of her success, she realized that her health had taken such a backseat that it was now, impacting. So that was her table flip moment. We had, another member who, when they they went on a family holiday, again a dream holiday, she had to use the extender belt on the airplane. So for some people it can be like that. For other people it could be, the fat photo, as you hear a lot of people refer to. For other people it can be more subtle than that. It can just be, we get a lot of women in midlife who are just, they're like, is this how it's meant to feel? Am I meant to wake up in the morning and the thought of working out what to wear and blow drying my hair is so exhausting. I don't even know if I can get through that part of the day, let alone the whole day. So there's a lot more of this more low grade, just not winning at life and just not feeling like your old self and feeling like you've lost yourself. We get a lot of that as well. But I think for true behavior change to happen, we do need a trigger. There needs to be that aha moment that triggers the beginning of change. It's not going to sustain you through the change, but it is going to be that step change where you're like, all right, something's changing and it's starting now.
Yeah, I agree. Through doing this podcast, 80 guests so far, give or take, 90% of them, I've been using that crisis change. And I think even from what you've just said, it's going to change my vocabulary a little bit going forward, because it's not necessarily crisis, but it's that you're right, that table flip moment. That's the perfect way to say it. It doesn't have to be crisis, but a lot of them has. For me, it was crisis. It wasn't even my workplace bullying that changed it for me, and that was crisis. It was the almost life or death experience for me that changed it, and the thought of my family not having me around. That's really what changed it for me. So, sorry, go on. Yeah, go on.
It's funny because what I would love to support people with is, let's not wait for a crisis before the change happens. And you touched on something earlier where you said, I wish I'd known all this 20 years ago. Self-discovery and understanding more about yourself, I feel like, is the key to not needing a crisis or a table flip moment. So, for example, in our programs, we run our flagship program called Inner Vitality operates off a big blood test that you get over 55 biomarkers, and it's what we call the Sleep Well at Night test, where it kind of gives you a really good snapshot of your health. And what we say to our members is that your body will whisper before it roars. And so you don't just wake up with disease one day. There are whispers, and your body's been showing you these really subtle, sometimes not so subtle, but in the early days, subtle signs. And so we educate our members around these markers and go, these are whispers. Let's look at these. And even then, for so many people, that's enough of that trigger or that light bulb moment. That's all they need, because they suddenly understand their bodies better and they go, that's why I'm getting such high sugar I'm insulin resistant, which is silent. I didn't know what that was, but that explains the sugar cravings. That explains the crashes that I get. That explains the stubborn weight and why the things that I used to do to lose weight just aren't working anymore. So that's where I feel like there's so many subtle things that can be that trigger for us now, rather than waiting for the big crisis.
Agreed. And that's what I think, that's deep down probably why the podcast exists, because I want it to be preventative. I want people to think in a preventative sense, like, I don't want to hit a crisis. I don't want that to be happening. Obviously, things might come our ways in the future, whether it's a depressive state or something negative. But at least if I'm putting the raw materials into my body, the right raw materials, and I'm filling those gaps of the deficiencies, at least I'll be prepared for something. And then it might prevent. Yeah, I might be sad for a year, but it might not mean I go down that suicidal route, or I might not. Do you know what I mean? Like, just change the trajectory of life. We don't. It's about choices. We have choices, and I think we have to begin. Yes, we need to teach. I want adults to know. I would love to go to. I go into a lot of schools, and I'd love to tell the parents, but we all know parents don't want to be told how to parent with what's going on at their home and how life is so busy for them. I get it. So let's start at school. You know, I teach these kids at schools. I talk about the neural pathways. I talk about the sleep and food and nutrition, and just at a very basic level. I give them secret codes. I give them a code at all the schools. I don't even know the schools know I do this, but I go and give them codes. I teach them about the wires to the TV and mimic that being a neural pathway. I talk about the myelination. I talk about the synapses connections and so on. I give them a code. And the point of the code is it's meaningless. It's pointless. No teacher should give you such a meaningless task ever. But if I tell them 3 times and I mess their brains up and I come back to them and they love it. And they 95% of the time, the kid who's the least focused ends up remembering the code. And I've said to them, see, never tell me you can't do anything ever again. You can achieve anything that you want in life. And when they put their state into attention focused mode, they can actually go and achieve whatever we want. Which also proves me we're not doing everything right in the education system as well. We're presenting scripts, this boring scripture. These teachers are bored. They're reading from scripts, so the kids can feed off the energy. And then you bring obviously the food aspects, the life aspects, the lack of sleep, people on devices all night. Even I hear kids saying, "Oh, my parents don't even know I'm on a device till 2 a.m." So
my goodness,
we just crash. The system is crashing from all angles, and no one's aware of it. And I feel like it's my job to kind of make everybody aware. And I don't know, I could be here for hours on that one.
Yeah, I'm hearing you, and I heard a teacher say something the other day that was such a different perspective that alarmed me. She said, I take all the phones off the kids in the classroom, so she knows that none of them are secretly under the desk on their phones or anything like that. She said, I'm staring at a room full of blank, numb faces. She said it's like if you went into a rehab facility for drug addiction and they're on day 2 or day 3 of detoxing from the drug. She said those kids are coming down off their dopamine high, that if they're either on a device, or if they're not on the device, they're just their hormones are just so interrupted that they're not taking anything in. She said it's like teaching a room full of completely numb people. I was just like, oh my gosh, that's
spot on.
That's a bit depressing.
Absolutely spot on, because they're on, let's say, for example, TikTok till whatever, and these clips are 30 seconds to a minute long. Their brain's just constantly trained to focus on something for a minute, even though they might be on it for hours. But each segment is such a small period of time. So that brain's being, essentially trained to focus in that manner. So then they come to a classroom where they have to be taught reading, writing, and maths. They might not be interested in. They could have the most exciting teacher up there who's got this energy and passion and boom.
It's never going to complete with a YouTube short.
No, never, ever. Yeah.
Even Nazi Germany, which has got guns and trauma, and I loved modern history, but I was reading that in a black and white textbook. That's not going to compete with a short. But can I just say, Andy, that the great news is that hormonal and addictive pathway, do you want to know how long it takes to reset?
I think I know this, but go on.
Do you want to take a stab?
Oh, I'm sure I read this. It was a matter of 8 minutes.
And well, okay, no, that's the absolute. That's the 24-hour cycle. But to reset,
go on.
Okay, and to essentially come off the addictive pathway is 14 days. So those numb people, if we ship them off to, I don't know, to the farm out so-and-so that had no internet and all of that within 14 days. And it's this amazing neurotransmitter called delta phos B. Yeah. And if your amazing guests are interested in learning more, I've got a whole podcast episode on it. It's a couple of years old now, but this is amazing evergreen content with David Gillespie. And basically this delta phos B, think of it like a barometer, like a temperature gauge. And imagine you've got a temperature gauge, and imagine that the thermostat is set at, so that's your delta phos B, is set at a level, and that's the level of satisfaction and stimulation. So dopamine, which is the driver, dopamine is the hormone, the seeking hormone, okay? And that's the hormone that if you've got a drug addict or a person that, is addicted to screens and whatnot, they're seeking that dopamine hit. Once that dopamine hit and the dopamine fires up to this thermostat delta phos B level, that's when you get the high, that's when you get the satisfaction. It's the equivalent of if you go online shopping, you find the thing, you click on it, or the lion catching the prey. They eat the prey, they get their fix,
Yeah.
and then slowly, and they feel satisfied. So what happens is with an addict or with any of these, sugar, screen, sex, gambling, alcohol, drugs, the more you have, the thermostat of delta phos-B raises higher and higher and higher. So you suddenly need more and more and more.
Yeah.
But to reset that thermostat back down to normal levels and pre-addictive levels takes 14 days.
Yeah,
So
wow.
I really want to stress, because sometimes as parents it's quite overwhelming and depressing and sad. I want to stress that we can rewire, we can, and for ourselves as well, for those people that are addicted to sugar or, or their own screen addictions. When you do take it away, it will reset. So it's a good news story.
Well, I'm glad it was good news. 14 days doesn't sound good news to me.
Well, I guess if you think about it in the sense of nutrition and diet and health, and you're someone that it's been Christmas time, say, or Easter, and you've had a real, just let the cat out of the bag, and you've been eating and drinking and being merry and all of that. And then what happens is the cravings for those foods starts to become a lot stronger. I think it's a good news story that it only takes a week or two for those cravings to subside, but you've got it. The hardest part is the first 4 or 5 days, and then it gets easier and easier and easier. So I'm a bit like, anyone can do anything for 14 days. So let's focus on it, reset, and then it's going to be much healthier for us in the long term.
Yeah, I know this for sure, because I did that with sugar myself. I completely eradicated sugar, and within a week or two, I was not needing sugar. I even went into the supermarket, and I just knew where obviously all the sugar was. I mean, it's mainly in the middle of the whole place, but I just avoided the chocolate area, and I didn't even care. And then there was a point where I went down, it was like this, I actually could smell it. And I just stayed away from it, and I didn't look. I'm back on it. I'm back on its 80-20 rule now.
Yeah.
And the school holidays, and guys, it goes up because I'm with my children, and we do it. But you're right, it is a good news, because I sit there and go, Monday will come. I'm going to go back into the cold plunge in the morning. I'm going to set myself back to my 19-hour fast today, because I know it works for me, and I feel great after it, and I feel more focused. And then I keep away the sugar, which. I lost 9 kilos in 3 weeks without exercising.
Just because you cut the sugar out?
Cut the sugar out, cold plunges, and I got rid of my daily stress, chronic stress.
There you go. Look at that. See?
Yeah.
Your body wants to heal itself. Your body wants to operate optimally and to be in a lovely state of homeostasis. And so when you start to put the right inputs in, miraculously, for most people, not everyone, but for most people, the body responds really well.
Absolutely. We've been talking about dopamine. I share that quite a lot with children to get them to understand the impacts of the dopamine on their systems. And I say to them, look, our ancestors would build shelter, and it would take them 3, 4, 5 hours to build the shelter wherever they would be living in the forest, the jungles and whatever. And the weather would destroy it after a few days. But they would get that same dopamine hit from hours of work and effort. Now we can just look at a phone and get the same level of hit and off a second. And that's, I think, probably where we're going wrong, right? Because we've invented all these beautiful things, and they all have a place. We're just not using them in the right way, maybe. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I have the cutest story to share to support what you're saying, because what you're essentially saying is that nothing competes with the phone. Like, how is even going for a surf or, experiencing the beautiful outdoors, even that won't compete with a phone regarding dopamine hits. But I have to tell you what happened last night, Andy.
Go on.
You're going to love this. So my 12-year-old son has just got back from 7 days in the outback at Uluru. He's in year 6, and there was this beautiful opportunity at his school for a group of boys and girls to go on this outback Indigenous experience. And it's the longest he's ever been away from home. He came back last night. He went a boy and he came back a man. I cannot tell you. We stayed up for 2 hours. We all missed him so much. I've got 4 kids, so we got a cheesecake for as a surprise to welcome him home. We sat around the table having slices of this cheesecake while he just told all these stories around the outback and Indigenous culture. And he, he said this thing, he goes, Mum, I just feel so connected.
Oh.
He goes, I just feel so connected to our land and to the trees and the stars, Mum, the stars. And
Wow.
and of course, there were no devices. They all went without devices. And a little tear rolled up, and I just thought, that is so special. Don't you think?
Oh, and it's more evidence we can reset everything even in that regard too.
Yeah, I know. And I just thought, you forget these kids still have a lot of wonder and awe. So let's not numb that and limit that because we're competing against these devices. So in a nutshell, with my 4 kids, we have a 2-hour limit. So just on a very practical level, this is how I'm navigating it. And I'm definitely not perfect by any means. And lots of your listeners will be navigating it a whole lot better than me. And lots of your listeners will also be going, I could not do that. So everyone's on their own path. We do no screens Monday to Friday. If they get all their homework done and things like that, I will let them watch something educational, which is basically BTN. By the way, BTN is the best thing.
Love
I cannot
BTN.
tell you how much general knowledge my kids have because of BTN. They can watch BTN. They can possibly watch a documentary like on National Geographic, and occasionally Bluey. That's literally it. But usually it only gets to BTN. So Monday to Friday, absolutely no gaming, none of that. And then on the weekends, they get 4 p.m. till 6 p.m. because I know we eat dinner around 6. So I always know there'll be a hard stop. If I did it like 10 a.m. till 12 p.m., like that would become 2 p.m., 4 p.m. So that works for us. And then in the holidays, it tends to stretch. I still every day, like they can do 4 till 6 every day. So my advice with screens is just limit it to that 2 hours or less. Now, my kids don't have phones and they're not getting phones for a very long time. I gave them the ones that are starting to catch buses and doing all that. I gave them an Apple Watch.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah, and that buys you an extra few years. And yep, Charlotte's the only kid in her year that doesn't have a phone. So soz, suck it up, sister. I don't care.
You're like me.
Yeah,
You're like me. Because I say to my son, these children, because adults are talking about trauma now and, what happened to them when they were young or, they didn't get hugged, parents didn't say sorry or more very severe things, which we obviously won't go down right now. But I said to my son, the trauma of the children today will turn around and say, because everything will be, the science is prevalent. I compare it to cigarettes. Everyone thought it was healthy, right? Everyone thought cigarettes were healthy. Then there was a period of time where they just did it and they didn't think about it. And then there was a period of time where they knew it wasn't healthy, but they carried on doing it. And then there was a period of time where they put the pictures of the arteries onto the boxes and it all fizzled out slowly, but still people did it, but it was prevalent. People chose to listen to it or didn't. And now you barely see people cigarettes. The whole other issue is vaping, but that's a separate subject. I compare the cigarettes to the devices, right? The science is there. I mean, I think it's prevalent because I'm on it all the time, but to the rest of the world, it probably isn't prevalent. However, it will be. When they're 25, they'll turn around and say, the trauma is, it's not my parents' fault, they just didn't know. But I was, they allowed me on a device till all hours, and even then they didn't know.
Oh my God, parents, I can't believe you let me on that device at this age.
Yeah.
But I think the challenge for parents and for lots of parents listening is once the cat's out of the bag, it can be really hard. So if you're a parent of a year 3 kid or younger, then you are at a crucible moment to really make a decision. Are you going to be that parent? And my advice is yes, be that parent, delay the phone as long as possible. If you're a parent that's like, well, the cat's out of the bag, my kids, it's very hard to take it away once it's there. But that's when all those screen limits become so important. And I'm not quite there yet, so your listeners would probably have a lot more experience. But Custodio is a fantastic device or app service you can put across all their devices where you can see everything. My girlfriend just discovered her 12-year-old was researching dildos. You can see all their browser history, so what they're typing in. You can set limits on all the devices. So that to me is the one that I think a lot of parents are finding quite user-friendly.
Yeah.
And obviously the argument is I'm paying the phone bill. So actually it's my phone. You're just borrowing it off me. And so it will be taken away if it's abused and not used properly. And as far as all the fights we have with our kids, and I'm a nutritionist, I'm going to say the fight over screen usage is even more important than the fight over nutrition. And that pains me to say that. I don't like saying that. But
No.
if you think about in a day as a parent, I am fighting with my kids about 1,000 things. Get out of bed on time, brush your teeth, have you got your sun cream on, have a healthy breakfast. You've got 50 battles. And there are some that I think are super important. And I would actually say that if you're going to drop any battles, like the screen time has to be top of the list. And if you have to relax a little bit on nutrition, then I'd rather you be strict on screen time.
Yeah, wow.
And that's coming from a nutritionist. So yeah.
Well, I've got the evidence now. I can push that out whenever I'm discussing it. Just go to my episode, guys. I've got the expert on it. So,
I'm just going to get trolled by every nutritionist and dietitian out there now.
So I want to, look, I want to touch on lunchboxes in schools and stuff like that. I really, really do. But for you, because this is Leading Our Own Way is about the guest as well. So for you in the health industry, you've been in it since you were 17, like you mentioned. What do you think the biggest, I suppose, evolution that you've witnessed in exercise science then, since starting to now?
Probably the introduction of wearables and biofeedback. Right. So when I first started in the mid-90s, we had scales, we had tape measures, we had body fat calipers, and we had, fitness tests, I guess. And they were kind of the biofeedback that we used predominantly. And that was great. And then DEXA scans came in. And that was pretty innovative. And so we were sending people off to, I just remember how excited we all were to actually be able to measure body fat and muscle and skeletal health. So that was an innovation. And then we had the introduction of wearables in the form of, watches, Apple Watch, Fitbits, Garmin's. Well, we always had polar heart rate monitors, and they were pretty cool too, but usually just for your more endurance and quite advanced exercises. So where I've seen a real shift in evolution is people's ability to understand their bodies at a much deeper level and take this biofeedback and use it. And look, what always happens with these things is there'll be an initial uptake and usage that creates and triggers a lot of behavior change. And then over time, like closing the 3 rings on the Apple Watch was all the rage. And, but a lot of people that wear Apple Watches now are probably like, I don't do that anymore. So it's always an evolution. But what I have seen is people are so much more health literate than they ever were. So back in the day, my job was to educate people. And up until probably about 2015, 2016, going on the Today Show, doing my blog in 12WBT, it was all about finding the latest research and education and then educating people. But then since probably in the last 10 years, we see this flip where actually there is so much education. We pretty much all know what we should be doing. The challenge becomes what is relevant and important for me, because I can't be doing all these things and pulling all these levers. And so where we've come to today is a whole group of very confused and overwhelmed people who are like, well, I'm getting all this health messaging and it's exhausting because I don't know which one is relevant for me. And so my argument and my counter to that is the more you understand your own body better, the more you can make really clear, informed decisions about, well, what do I need to focus on? A great practical example is fasting, intermittent fasting.
I do it.
You do that? Is that right?
19 hours a day. I don't probably eat after dinner time until lunchtime the next day, and I try not to eat in the dark as well.
Yeah. So right now you saying that, all your listeners that heard you say that are going to form an opinion.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a bunch of people that are going to go, that's ridiculous. Andy, like you're losing muscle mass, you're stressing your body, you're driving up your cortisol. And then there'll be half a group of people that will be like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I love doing that too. And then, there'll be a bunch of people that have, no opinion one way or the other.
You're going to tell me I'm doing it wrong now, aren't you?
Yeah, no, see? Here's what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I can't tell you if it's right for you because I don't know enough about your body. But if you have had your bilirubin, I can tell you who fasting isn't good for, and this is what we do. So ladies in particular, it's a real thing at the moment because intermittent fasting has been such a successful way for people to manage their weight. But then there's a lot of newer research suggesting that potentially it could be leading to sarcopenia, which is loss of muscle, and also driving up stress and cortisol in some people. So there is a profile of person that fasting is not suitable for. And so if you know that you're that person, then that's a really clear thing to go, okay, well, this isn't right for me. So I'll tell you what that profile is because that's probably the best way. So fasting is particularly not good for people who have elevated bilirubin. And this is a marker that you'll see in a very standard blood test. And it's something called Gilbert syndrome. And it's just, there's a genetic and a whole bunch of, so if you see that your bilirubin is either in the red on the high side or on the higher side of normal, fasting will not agree with you. If you're a type A personality type where you're someone who's a high achiever and, you kind of runs on quite a state of high stress anyway, then combined with a healthy weight, if you're at a healthy weight or maybe even slightly under muscled, then fasting may not be the right profile for you because it might be driving up those stress pathways. If you're unable to regulate your blood sugar, so if you are either type 2 diabetic, highly pre-diabetic or highly insulin resistant, then the fasting is not good for you because you're unable to control your blood sugar. You actually might have what we call a hypoglycemic episode where you'll actually feel faint, dizzy, shaky. But if you're moderately insulin resistant, so if you're sitting here, you've gained a bit of weight, you're maybe in midlife, particularly for women who are starting to go into that perimenopause or menopausal transition, you've gained a bit of weight, you need to lose a little bit of weight, fasting can be a fantastic tool. So that's why you need to understand your body better in order to make those informed choices. And then you feel confident. It's not overwhelming. It's not confusing. It's like, oh yeah, okay, which camp do I sit in? All right, here's what I'm going to do.
You've got a roadmap for your body, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just before I ask you how, because obviously the everyday person might not know. Well, I look okay, I feel good, but so I must understand my body. It goes a lot deeper than that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just before we go down that one, what could you explain? bilirubin? Was it bilirubin? Did you say?
Yeah.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. Oh, look, it's just there's a whole bunch of liver, kidney markers and markers in our body that we are using to track and measure over time the health of, particular organs. And bilirubin is just, it's a very standard marker that's measured in some of our, major organ tests that we do. And there's this syndrome called Gilbert's. It's quite common, but it's exacerbated through fasting. So we'll see those enzymes starting to climb up when the fasting is becoming a stress on our body. And it's just genetic. So some people are genetically more prone to having Gilbert syndrome. And there's not a lot you can do about it, except you just then have to adapt your lifestyle to suit your own genes.
Fill in those gaps, yeah.
Yeah, and your regular GP is not going to tell you this. That's why a functional medicine doctor will be able to extrapolate so much more out of even just routine blood tests, even before they go into the slightly more advanced testing.
So how would the everyday person then understand their body at a deeper level? Is this, again, what you said before, getting your biomarkers checked? Is it doing a gene test, having a look at your genes, your expression of your genes? Yeah,
that's such a great question.
Wow, what an absolute ripper of a conversation. Amelia's insights into preventive health and the psychology behind behaviour change. are just mind-blowing. What do you think? I'd love you to leave some comments of what you think so far. The way, though, I think she connects the dots between our cellular level health, sorry, my tongue twister there, and how our daily choices, that's the stuff that gets me all fired up. Don't go anywhere, because part 2 is dropping tomorrow, and we're diving even deeper into the mitochondrial magic and how Amelia transformed her business alongside with her husband, Tim. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. So until then, keep leading your own way, you absolutely amazing people. Please use the hashtag leading our own way. Please follow the show, and please give us a review, because we are getting bigger, which means we are reaching more people to share the love and help people with their journeys, mental health, and their own journeys and stories too. So we'll see you tomorrow for part 2 with Amelia Phillips. Join us tomorrow to hear more from today's incredible guests and learn valuable insights to help you lead your own way. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you then.